It's Wednesday. You know what that means. Time for the Southern California Writers Association Hump Day Book Tour. I'm your host, Maddie Margarita, here with Diana Pardee on tech. Every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, the Southern California Writers Association turns our Facebook group over to a different author to introduce themselves, their work, and maybe share a writing tip or two. So take a break, grab a cup of coffee, and enjoy as SCWA's Hump Day Book Tour proudly welcomes Helaine Mario. Helaine is the author of 3 novels, Firebird, The Lost Concerto, and the sequel, Dark Rhapsody. Helaine wants more than anything else to tell a good story, create characters with depth, and paint pictures with words, and to make people feel. Helaine and her husband, Ron, now spend their time in Arlington, Virginia, where she continues her advocacy work, writing, and then they also move or spend time in Cape May, which we've talked about before. So good morning, Helaine.
Good morning, Maddie. Thank you so much for having me. And thanks to everybody, all the Southern California writers. I appreciate the invitation.
Well, we're happy to have you here all the way from Arlington, Virginia.
And I'd like to say, Maddie, just one thing to everyone in California, that my heartfelt thoughts to all of you, because I can only imagine everyone must be touched by the fires. And I'm supporting the Red Cross, and there's a wonderful organization called Project Night Night, which gives books to children in California who've been disconnected by the fires. So wanted to add that right at the beginning.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. We appreciate everybody's help. It's been a tough time for a lot of people up north and all throughout the West. So we appreciate that. But let's start a little bit and turn the spotlight back on you, Helaine, and talk to you a little bit about your mystery series and what makes it different from some of the other mystery series that are out there.
Okay, well, music is what makes my books different. I'd like to start, I guess, by saying that I wrote nonfiction for quite a while, both in the White House and for the Gores, and also for local newspapers in Connecticut. But there was always something missing, and it turned out to be fiction. And I know the exact moment when the inspiration for my first book, The Lost Concerto, came. And I'd like to tell you that story, if I may. I was looking out at the water and wondering whatever happened to my first love from high school. And even after being married for 50 years, you can have those wonderings sometimes. And I thought, what would have happened if I looked in a newspaper and I saw his picture some 2 decades later? I thought he'd been gone forever, and there he was in a cafe in Paris. What would I do? And I borrowed a pencil from the person next to me, wrote the whole prologue right there to a book that became The Lost Concerto. I wrote it on the newspaper, and that's what started everything for me. So, but inspiration is a funny thing, because if you think the root of the word inspiration is inspire, and that means really taking a breath, breathing in, and you're breathing as a writer, you're breathing in all the thoughts and smells and sounds and beauty and sadness around you. And that's what gives you the inspiration for your stories. And of course, Robin Williams called it that spark of madness. So you have to hope that that will strike you too. But it's the first question I'm always asked, what inspired me? And then I say, well, once I had the prologue, where do I go? I wanted to write the books that I wanted to read. So I broke the first rule right away. I never studied writing. And so I thought, well, I don't want to write about what I know. I want to write about what I love. And what I love, one of the things, is classical music. So that's where that all began. My son, at age 6, was asking to play the piano. We were not a musical family, no instruments, no carry a tune. We rented an upright for him, then we bought an upright, then we ended up buying a grand piano for Sean, who played so beautifully, and I would listen. I knew nothing about classical music when he was back in the day, but I would listen to his practice, and I fell in love with Beethoven and Chopin and all of the greats. And so I knew that my main character would have to be a classical pianist. And that's how Maggie O'Shea was born. And I, right from the get-go, wanted to grip folks. So I made her, she was grieving for the tragic death of her husband. And in grieving, she had also frozen inside. She couldn't play the piano anymore. So that is how the Lost Concerto begins. Maggie is lost in every way possible. And the story became a story about looking for something. Maggie is drawn to Paris to search for her missing godchild and a missing piece of music and this famous missing lost love from her past. And it turns out, as I was writing, I discovered she was also looking to find herself, and that became the core of the story. And even though it is very suspenseful and it's either a mystery or a thriller, depending on how you look at it, to me, it's a story about courage and love and what we do to try to find ourselves. So that's, I guess, at its heart, this whole story also was about music, because it's the music that sort of aligns with Maggie and carries her through from step to step, note to note, chord to chord. And the other thing I discovered, not knowing how to write, really, working on the characters, I invented or developed a character called the Colonel, who was her good romantic foil in this book. And he's take no prisoners, kind of gruff guy. And early on, I lost faith in the story and put it in a drawer for a year. But I've said this before, the characters kept hammering on the drawer, trying to get out. And I finally let them out because I knew it was a good story in my heart. It just wasn't as well written as it could be. So I tore it down, rewrote it, added characters, took characters away. My husband always says nothing happens in the scene, so I had to take a scene and make something happen in it. And the Colonel originally had just been this gruff kind of professional. This time around, in my rewrites, I added Shiloh. He is a rescue golden retriever, three-legged animal. He gave the book so much humor, which is important, and he gave the Colonel so much humanity. And now there's a fan club for Shiloh. I mean, he just took off. So that is, when I was writing, when I was just one thing about being a child, I grew up in Queens, and every morning I would get up at 6 o'clock. I was very shy. I was a reader, and I would read my books before school in my grandmother's old blue rocking chair. And that feeling of falling into a book, Maddie, is with me still. And why I want to write, I want to give a story, that sense of falling into a story to someone else. That's it. So that is, and ask me anything else about the Lost Concerto, or I can kind of move on.
Now, I think you've given us a great sense of the heart of the series and the book and the character, and I can see how that would be different. I see how personal these books are to you, and I'm sure, like everybody else, I'm anxious to get my hands on them and start to read them right away. So that, I think that's great. Tell me, I know we were talking earlier about some hints for writers. And you were saying you had some hints for writers.
Oh, sure I do. Here, I actually wrote down these scribble scrabbles. I usually, if I give a talk, I'll give maybe a dozen hints, but these are my 4 big ones. And then we can get back, and then I'll talk to you about my Dark Rhapsody book. But let me give these tips first. Mary Higgins Clark said she used 3 words to write a book, begin a story: suppose and what if. And then my friend, the writer, James Anderson, gave me the finishing touch. He said, something must happen. So when you're ready, it's suppose, what if, and something must happen. The second tip I actually stole from Elmore Leonard, which is don't write the parts that people will skip. And that's excellent advice. The third tip is my own, and it's don't apologize. Write the best damn book you can write. Trust yourself. Be true to yourself. And with any luck, the characters will take over and take you on a ride and give that falling in sense to other people. Last tip, and this has been for all of the books I've written, find the heart of the story. At some time, at some moment, there'll be that moment when you understand what the heart of your story is. And the soul, the grace of it, and it links everything together. And it's that moment when you know you have something that means something. And that is something you have to strive for. So I forgot to show you this. This
That's
is my,
a beautiful cover.
it is a beautiful cover. You'd have to, my publishers, I love them, they're Ocean View Publishing. The gentleman who did this, Christian, his first name, I can't remember his last, but Ocean View would tell you if anyone is interested. He's very talented, very talented.
Now, Ocean View also publishes Matt Coyle.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
And do they publish Dave Putnam?
Yes, I think they do.
Yeah.
Yes, I believe they still do.
Yeah,
I'm trying to work through some of their authors, and I have become a huge Matt fan. I have to give him a shout out. And it's funny because listening to his interview, he mentioned getting started on the first book and realizing he had a series. Well, that did not happen to me. I wrote the Lost Concerto, and I was done. I was finished. I was going to go on to some other life. And all of a sudden, readers started calling me. What happens to Maggie next? And then I thought, yeah, what does happen to Maggie? And then the publisher asked what happens to Maggie. So you would think if I were mad, I'd be going Yahoo, but I became terrified. I was so scared. I poured my heart and soul into the Lost Concerto. And I was really frightened that I couldn't write another book in my mind as good. And I didn't want to let readers down. So I'm slow. I took 2 years. But before I could even start, I went to Pat Gusson, the publisher. She gave me the best advice for a series or sequel. She said, people are investing in your character. They like that person. They care about those characters. But the secret is to also give them the familiar, give them what they're looking for again, but challenge, bring in new challenges, and bring in new layers. And that was great advice. And also pushed me to bring in new characters for the next book. So I brought in a priest who was great fun to write for. And I brought in an aging legend, a pianist who was an aging legend from World War II, and she has some very dark secrets. And then last but not least, I brought in Maggie's father, the maestro, who one day just walked off the stage during a performance. So
Helaine,
yeah.
Are we talking about Dark Rhapsody now?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Yes, we
okay.
are. Right. Look at this cover. It's gorgeous.
Too.
Yeah, it's a beauty. I love this. And the rose has something to do with it. They always try to pull in for the covers something about the book. And when the book starts, Maggie, when Dark Rhapsody begins, Maggie is just finally getting back to her music again. And everything is going great guns. And all of a sudden, she walks into her Carnegie Hall practice room, and there are hundreds and hundreds of blood red roses left by a scary admirer, and gives you chills.
Ooh.
And then we're off and running. And the whole story is set again against the international music world. I like international novels. So off we go. She goes to Vienna and Salzburg, cities of music. Again, my writing seems to be about a search. I like that. And so she is searching for the truth behind her mother's death. And she's looking for the father that disappeared. And she's looking also for a missing Matisse from World War II.
Mhm.
And thank you for that painting behind you. Yes, this book is about art as well as music. Um, but, and then it's
So,
just what happens to her. As you know, let me see what I have, if I have any great notes here. Um,
so, so
other
Helaine,
thing,
Helaine, can I ask you one final question?
yes.
One final question. When readers put your book down after they finished your books, what feeling is it that you want them to have when
Ah,
they close the book? We'll leave everybody on that note.
okay. I want them to have been touched. I want somebody wrote, you made me want, I'd never been to a concert in my life. I wanted to go to a concert because what I tried to give off is the power, the healing power of music and art in our lives. And that to me, and that's why my next book, Shadow Music, the same. Maggie continues to change and grow. And in this book, Dark Rhapsody, it is Rachmaninoff's Rhapsody that changes and grows with her, and that is the heart of that story. So,
Well, thank you for sharing your history and your inspiration this morning. We appreciate that.
I have so much more, Maggie.
I know I told you this would go fast. Where can people find your books, Helaine?
Oh, anyway, Amazon, libraries, Barnes and Noble,
Okay.
the publisher.
Okay, great. So, we always encourage everyone to support our authors if you can, but if you can't afford to buy their books, there are other ways you can support authors. Number one is by leaving a review. Authors love reviews, and also by word of mouth, telling people how much you enjoyed their books. So we appreciate that. I hope everyone enjoyed this morning. I know I did. If you like this video and hope to see more like this, please subscribe. You can find us on YouTube, Southern California Writers, SCWA Writers Online. Thank you very much. And I want to thank you again, Helaine. Best of luck on your next book, and we'll see you all
I
soon.
hope I can come back and talk about that.
Okay, it's a deal.
It's a deal. Bye, everybody. Thank you.